These proceedings are now called to order. Will all please be seated? Ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, Emory trustees, faculty, candidates, and all who have given so much to nurture and support those who graduate today, good morning to you. Serving Emory University as its president, I welcome you to these 161st commencement exercises of the university. This moment marks the culmination of years of study and preparation that have gone into your degrees. The presence of family signifies the support, love, and belief in you that helped to make this moment possible. So to all, welcome to this time-honored and festive occasion. I call now upon the Reverend Susan Henry Crow, Dean of the Chapel and of Religious Life, to offer the invocation.
Let us pray. O God of wisdom, breathe into us the spirit of gratitude for all the gifts of life. In our abundance, may we remember and be advocates for those who are poor. In our plenty, may we always find ways to address poverty in ourselves and in the world. Breathe through creation the impulse for life-giving curiosity. We have gazed with new eyes at a body in the anatomy lab, a theorem in mathematics, newfound customs in a culture, a rare text, a letter of love, always finding new insights. Breathe sustenance into these who are graduating. Commencing into the world, may they find communities and friends and ventures that will honor the deep desire for their hearts and minds. Give to their parents and forebears delight and joy to replace the uncertainty that this day might never come. Breathe inspiration into our hearts and minds for those we uniquely honor this day. These honorees have unfailingly defended and addressed the needs of children, those living in poverty, those in prison, and the new discoveries. Their accomplishments have brought wisdom and insight to a world weary and hungry for truth and integrity. Their respective service to the academy, to law, to learning, and to justice stirs in us a desire to seek new horizons of service for humankind. Oh God, breathe compassion into this institution and her president, trustees, professors, administrators, and staff, and all who work to make Emory a place of distinction for moral imagination, intellectual integrity, scholarship, teaching, research, for the transformation of the world. Breathe into us a sense of responsibility for the common good. Make us mindful of those for whom violence and war make it impossible to study and to learn. Deepen our yearning and action for healing and hope to a sometimes dark and needy world. We pray for peace. O God of wisdom, after this journey, accompany us in all the places we go and all that we do. Leave us not alone to the independence of our thinking and cynicism of spirit, but give to us fellow travelers who help us remember the spirit of love and the joy of learning we have come to know in this place called Emory. Amen.
Members of the class of 2006, you are privileged to have received at Emory an education of a kind that is not easy to achieve elsewhere. You have every right to be proud of your accomplishments. For most of your time at Emory, though, our nation has been at war. For us and for our country, Americans your age have fought and died in faraway places. In our own land, some of our fellow citizens have suffered devastating losses of homes and livelihoods from natural disasters. Both at home and abroad, the principles on which our nation was founded have been put to severe and controversial tests. Now is not the time to debate the politics of our day, but I am proud to say that you here at Emory did not enjoy frivolously the blessings of peace at home and relative security from disaster. When you could, you gave aid to tsunami and Katrina victims. You did not waste your freedom. Instead, you applied yourselves diligently to your studies. You worked to build community, a community of scholars, a community of the mind, a community of intellectual inquiry and ethical engagement, a community of strength in diversity, a community of friendship. You pursued community with determination and a spirit of common goodwill, something I hope you can teach our generation and the rest of the world. You might recall that the ideals of this community are reflected in the motto of Emory University. The seal says, Cor prudentis possidebit scientiam. It means that the wise heart seeks knowledge. Your time at Emory has prepared you not only in the practical knowledge of solving equations and executing laboratory experiments, crafting a persuasive essay, and finding your way around an archive. Your time also has imbued you with certain virtues of the heart as well as the mind. Virtues that you take with you into the world, the virtues of courage to pursue the thread of truth wherever it leads and to speak that truth. The virtue of justice, to judge and give appropriate due to the arguments of others, some more valid than others. The virtue of wisdom, to understand your fellow human beings and seek ways to build community with them rather than discord and animosity. The world needs you to continue exercising and growing in the knowledge and the wisdom that you have gained here in this community. Now, as you leave this place, you join an august company of nearly 100,000 Emory alumni spread throughout the world. In fact, we're honored today to have a special band of those alumni who have demonstrated in their lives and careers the legacy of virtue and knowledge, that same legacy bequeathed to you. This group are members of the Corpus Cordis Aureum. That's Latin for the golden core of the heart. They marched in the procession today, clad in gold robes, with specially commissioned medallions hanging from blue ribbons. These alumni are members of the 50th reunion class, as well as members of classes that graduated from Emory prior to 1956. Ladies and gentlemen of the Corpus Cordis Aureum, would you please stand and allow us to recognize and appreciate you? They're over here, folks. Thank you, guys. Now, you may be interested in a few facts about Emory graduates of 2006, who you are. More than 3,500 degrees and certificates are going to be conferred on this day. 42% of these to men, 58% to women. I think I know which school that was. That's great. 45 of the United States are represented among you are graduates. 418 of today's graduates come from 89 nations abroad. In fact, most of those flags stand on display at either end of the quad. I hope you noticed them as you came in, notice them as you go out. They are evidence of our international vitality that we are trying to grow here at Emory. 40 of our degree recipients are over 50 years of age. The youngest bachelor's graduate is 20. The oldest bachelor's graduate is 57. And the oldest degree candidate is 71, receiving a master's of theological studies. All of you, though, through your exuberance, make us feel very young today. Congratulations to you all. You deserve an applause, I think. There are many students who have garnered honors and prizes through their careers at Emory. When you get a moment, look through pages 32 through 44 in your programs where they're listed. On page 31 are listed those students, only about 30 or so, who merit special attention by having earned 2 degrees simultaneously during their time at Emory. We'd like to honor you with the recipients of simultaneous degrees. Please stand, and would all of you please join me in congratulating these and all winners of the honors. Who has double degrees? Please stand up. It's the most timid degree of award winners I think I've ever seen. Well, we're proud of you, even if you're not, okay? There are 3 special awards we want to present, and they represent just few of the many honors garnered by our outstanding students and faculty members here today. Details of the accomplishments of these 3 special award winners can be found on page 4 of your program. Symbolic of all honors bestowed on students by the university is the Marian Luther Britton Award. It's an expression of gratitude for service performed without expectation of reward or recognition. And to present that award, I call upon Senior Vice President for Campus Life, John Ford. John.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to present Emory College senior Ferris Ackbick, the recipient of the 2006 Marian Luther Britton Award.
Next, the Scholar Teacher Award gratefully acknowledges the long and patient work of a member of the Emory University faculty. And it gives great pleasure for me to present the 2006 Scholar Teacher Award to Professor Francis Smith Foster. As Professor Foster comes forward, would previous winners of this honor among our faculty please stand and be recognized? Congratulations. Now it's my privilege to present to you Ben Johnson III of Emory College Class of 1965 and Chair of Emory's Board of Trustees to authorize the conferral of degrees. Ben?
President Wagner, esteemed members of the university faculty, and distinguished guests, on behalf of the trustees of Emory University, I take great pleasure in accepting the recommendations of the President and of the faculties of Emory University. I hereby authorize you to confer degrees upon the 2006 graduates, together with all appropriate honors, rights, privileges, and responsibilities.
Thank you, Ben. Now would be the time to turn to the awarding of our first degrees, our honorary degrees, but before I do that, I realize that I have done something out of order and need to correct that. I forgot to recognize, or I skipped the part where we're to recognize the Thomas Jefferson Award winner. The Thomas Jefferson Award is Emory's premier recognition for service to the university by a member of the faculty or the administration. And it gives me pleasure this morning to present the 2006 Thomas Jefferson Award to Professor Frank Alexander, who's certain. Dean Alexander served this year with exceptional skill and commitment as the interim dean of the Emory Law School. As Dean Alexander comes forward, would any previous winners of the TJ Thomas Jefferson Award please stand, and would you all join me in congratulating Dean Alexander? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. This morning, we are honored to have on this platform three special guests who have distinguished themselves in the fields of scholarship, of law, and of public service. You will find brief biographies of these eminent individuals on pages 5 and 6 of the commencement program. And so before we confer the degrees in course to each of you, it's our privilege this morning to present these three persons Emory's highest academic honor, the doctoral degree, honoris causa. Dean Robert Paul, will you present our first honored guest?
Mr. President,
Mr. Dean.
I have the honor to place the name of Dietrich von Bothmer in candidacy to receive the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters. Dr. von Bothmer is unable to be present today because of sudden illness. With us to receive the degree in his absence is Professor Jasper Gaunt of the Carlos Museum and the Art History Department and a former student of Dr. von Bothmer.
Dietrich von Bothmer, scholar, mentor, interpreter of antiquity. For 7 decades, you have focused the immense power of your intellect and imagination on discovering, understanding, and making known the fragile beauty of the classical world. Peerless among curators of Greek and Roman art, you have created an extraordinary body of work whose scholarly influence transcends the printed record. By your careful mentoring of new generations and by masterful assembling of unique collections, you have crafted an enduring and magnificent legacy. For your transformative impact on the field of art and history, Emory gratefully bestows the degree of Doctor of Letters, honoris causa. Provost Lewis, will you, actually, I'm turning too many pages. Dean Frank Alexander. We're going to get done very early at this rate. Dean Alexander, will you present our second honored guest?
Mr. President, it is my honor to present to you Stephen B. Bright for the degree of Doctor of Laws.
Stephen B. Bright, advocate of the public interest, defender of human rights. Through tireless work, you seek to assure that America lives up to the ideal of justice for all. Your determination has improved legal representation for the poor of our state and has helped to ensure humane treatment of those who fill our prisons. Your incisive publications distinguish you as a scholar who leavens reason with passion. Your teaching at the best law schools, including Emory's, has inspired bright men and women to follow in your steps. For your keen devotion to justice at the margins of life, we are proud to confer on you the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa. And now, Provost Lewis, will you present our third honored guest?
Mr. President, I have the honor to present to you Marian Wright Edelman to receive the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters.
Marian Wright Edelman, courageous defender of the poor and voiceless. In a world that often crushes the weak and vulnerable, and where the hope we invest in the next generation depends on that generation's surviving with dignity, equity, and strength, you have tended the flame of a hilltop beacon to guide us along the rocky shore to the future. Your life's work has raised to greater resonance in our society's common vocabulary the words community, service, respect, and conscience. For your diligence in holding before the world the need to care for the least of these, we confer on you the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa. And now, would you deliver a keynote address?
Thank you. I am so honored to be here on this beautiful day with your president and trustees, Steve Wright and the other honoree, your faculty, with your families, but most importantly, with what I'm sure is the best graduating class in the history of Emory University. Mark Hatfield, a wonderful Republican congressman from Oregon, former senator from Oregon, asked, how can we stand by as children starve by the millions because we lack the will to eliminate hunger, yet we have found the will to develop missiles capable of flying over the polar cap and landing within a few hundred feet of their target. This, Hatfield said, is not innovation. It is a profound distortion of humanity's purpose on Earth. The agrarian poet Wendell Berry said, the most alarming sign of the state of our society is that our leaders have the courage to sacrifice the life of young people in war, but have not the courage to tell us that we must be less greedy and less wasteful. Something is out of balance and out of kilter in the world that we live in, when just 691 billionaires have wealth that is equivalent to 3 billion people living in our 89 poorest developing countries. Over 347 of them, about 347 of them in the United States. They didn't need tax cuts in 2001, 2003, 2004, and again this year. In the midst of two costly wars, when Katrina's children and families are suffering without mental health and health care and education, when we have the highest debt in our history, the highest trade and budget deficits in our history, and the gap between haves and have-nots is at the largest since we have been recording them. And I want to remind us as well that something is out of balance, as Dr. King tried to remind us and Dwight Eisenhower tried to remind us. When we continue to spend more on military needs than on needs of human uplift. President Eisenhower, he wasn't president then, said in 1953, Dwight Eisenhower said, he talked about the stark life trade-offs in our national choices and reminded us that every gun that is made, every warship launched, every rocket fired signifies in the final sense a theft from those who hunger and are not fed, those who are cold and are not clothed. This world in arms is not spending money alone. It is spending the sweat of its laborers, the genius of its scientists, the hopes of its children. And I hope all of us today will engage in a national and global debate about how we change our moral compass and direction so that everybody can have enough in this rich world and in our rich nation. And I go back to my childhood where the values were clear more often than ever. And I hope that many of you graduating today will wander off the beaten path and help redefine success in the 21st century world, asking not how much can I get, but how much can I do without and share. Too many of us are absorbed with how can I find myself. Figure out how you can lose yourself in service to something that's bigger than yourself. When I was growing up, and my brother Harry is here today, when we were growing up in little Bennettsville, South Carolina, service was as much a part of our upbringing as eating and sleeping and going to school. Caring black adults were buffers against the segregated prison of the outside world that told me as a black girl that I wasn't worth very much. But I didn't believe it because my parents said it wasn't so, my preacher, my daddy, said it wasn't so, and my teachers said it wasn't so. So the childhood message I internalized was that as God's child, no man or woman could look down on me, and I could look down on no man or woman. Couldn't play in segregated public playgrounds or sit at drugstore lunch counters, and I'm pleased that I sat in first at the City Hall and that there's a black woman sitting in the City Hall today, so we have made progress. But my parents, whenever they saw a need, tried to respond. They built a playground, canteen behind our church. There were no black homes for the aged in my hometown, so my parents began one across the street. We children had to help cook and clean, and we sure didn't like it at the time. But that was how we learned that it was our responsibility to take care of elderly relatives and neighbors, and that everyone was our neighbor. Black church and community members were watchful extended parents. Children were considered community property. They reported on me when I did wrong, applauded when I did well, and they were very clear that doing well meant being helpful to others. Achieving in school and reading, all the right children figured out early on that the only time Daddy wouldn't give us a chore was when we were reading. We were all great readers. Children were taught by example that nothing was too lowly to do and that the work of our heads and hands were both valuable. Our families, religious congregations, community, and the black community made children feel useful and important. And while life was often hard and resources scarce, we always knew who we were and that the measure of our worth was inside our heads and hearts and not outside in personal possessions or ambition. We were taught that the world had a lot of problems, that we could struggle and change them, that intellectual and material gifts brought both the privilege and responsibility of sharing with others less fortunate, and that service is the rent every one of us pays for living. It's the very purpose of life, and not something you do in your spare time or after you've reached your personal goals or earned that first million or billion. I'm very grateful for these childhood legacies of a living faith reflected in daily service, the discipline of hard work, a capacity to struggle in the face of adversity. Giving up was not a part of my childhood lexicon. You got up every morning, and you did what you had to do, and you got up every time you fell down, and you tried as many times as you had to until you got it right. Our elders had grit. They valued family life and family rituals and tried to be and expose us to good role models, and those role models were of two kinds. Those who achieved in the outside world, and we were blessed. I always felt so lucky to be who I was when I was, with the convergence of great events and great leaders. I went to Spelman and in chapel, which was compulsory. I got to hear Dr. King, Dr. Mays, Dr. Howard Thurman, Dr. Mordecai Johnson, and all had a single message, which was the message of my parents, those of you who are educated are obligated to give back and make the world better. And I opposed compulsory chapel when I was a student. The first thing I did when I became chair of the Spelman Board was to reinstitute compulsory chapel so that young people would have a chance to know what we adults felt was and is important. So outside role models, Daddy used to drive us anywhere we could hear a great speaker to let us know that the world was all ours. And I remember in our church vestibule, in many ways, a lesson that made me understand I was part of a global community. He had a picture, which we looked at in church every Sunday or any time we went in, of a very wealthy white family on a table laden with food, surrounded by groups of emaciated people, and the caption under this cartoon said, "Shall we say grace?" And that struck me very much about the obligation of those who have much, sharing with those wherever they are in the world who have too little. But the role models I remember equally well were those without much formal education or money, but who taught by the special grace of their lives Christ and Tolstoy's and Gandhi's message that the kingdom of God is within. And every day I still try to be half as good as those ordinary people of grace who shared whatever they had with others. I was 14 the night my daddy died, with holes in his shoes, but he had 2 children in college who'd graduated from college, 1 child in college, another in divinity school, and a vision that he was able to convey to me even dying in an ambulance, that I, a young black girl, could do and be anything, that race and gender are shadows, and that character, self-discipline, determination, attitude, and service are the substance of life. I want to convey those same messages to you graduates today. As you graduate into an ethically polluted nation and world, where instant sex without responsibility, instant gratification without effort, instant solutions without sacrifice, getting rather than giving and hoarding rather than sharing are the 2 frequent signals of our mass media, popular culture, and political life. The standard for success for too many has become personal greed rather than common good. The standard for striving and achievement has become getting by rather than making an extra effort or helping somebody else. Truth-telling and moral example have become devalued commodities, and nowhere is the paralysis of public and private conscience more evident than in the neglect and abandonment of millions of our children, whose futures will determine our nation's ability to compete and lead in the new era and in the globalizing world. I agree with Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the great German theologian who died opposing Hitler's Holocaust, who said that the test of the morality of a society is how it treats its children. Well, America flunks Bonhoeffer's test every minute of every day. Every 9 seconds of the school day, one of our children drops out, and it's a recipe for national disaster. Every 35 seconds as we sit here, a child will be neglected or abused. Every 36 seconds in the richest nation on earth, we let a child be born into poverty. A majority of their families live in working families. Playing by the rules can't escape poverty. We lead the world in health technology, yet every 42 seconds, a baby is born without health insurance, and every minute, a teenager or a child has a child. We could fill up the city of Atlanta each year with the number of babies born to teen mothers. We can do better. We've got to do better. I believe we've lost our sense of what is important as a people, and that too many of our young people of all races and classes are growing up unable to handle life in hard places, without hope, and without steady compasses to navigate a world that is reinventing itself and at an unpredictable pace, both technologically and politically. My generation learned that to accomplish anything, we had to get off the dime. Your generation must learn to get off the paradigm over and over and to be flexible, quick, and smart about it. But despite all the dazzling change, I do believe that the enduring values of my childhood still pertain, and agree with Archibald MacLeish, the poet, that there is only one thing more powerful than learning from experience, and that is not learning from experience. And I always find that I can convey to my own children, and I share that from a book that I wrote to my own 3 sons after they were graduating from college and high school and leaving home, just in case. I wanted to be clear about the message. And I want to share a few of the lessons I gave to them, which became the measure of our success. And I think it pertains to all of us today, and I tell myself that, and I'm telling my grandchildren that there is no free lunch in life, is the first lesson. And don't any of you ever feel entitled to anything you don't sweat and struggle for. And we need to help our nation understand that it's not entitled to world leadership based on the past or on what we say, rather than on how well we perform and meet changing world needs. For those among you who are African American, Latin, Asian American, Native American, or people of color, I want you to remember you can never take anything for granted in America, even with an Emory degree. And you'd better not start now as racial intolerance resurges over our land. It's wrapped up in new euphemisms and better etiquette, but as Frederick Douglass warned, it's the same old snake. You've got to be vigilant. And for those young people who feel entitled to leadership, who happen to be white by accident of birth, I want to remind you that the world you face is already 2/3 non-white and poor, and that our nation, like California, is becoming a mosaic of greater diversity, and that we're going to have to all understand it and respect it and work with it. I hope you will really begin to be a vessel of mutual respect, of effort, not taking anything for granted. Your Emory degree may get you in the door, but it won't get you to the top of the career ladder or keep you there. You got to work your way up and continuously. I know you will always do your homework and pay attention to detail, take pride in your work, take the initiative in creating your own opportunity, and don't wait around for other people to discover you or do you a favor. Don't assume a door is closed. Push on it. And don't assume if it was closed yesterday that it's closed today. Push on it again. And don't ever stop learning and improving your mind, for if you do, you and America are going to be left behind. Keep at it. Keep working. Keep learning. Keep struggling. Second, set thoughtful goals and work quietly and systematically towards them. Don't feel you have to talk if you don't have anything important to say. Resist quick fix, simplistic answers and easy gains. They often disappear just as quickly as they come. So many of us talk big and act small. So often we get bogged down in our own ego needs and lose sight of deeper needs. It's okay to feel important if it's not at the expense of doing important deeds. Even if you don't get the credit, I learned early on in Washington that if you do the work and let other people take the credit, you can go a very long way. You know what you do, the Lord knows what you do, and that's all that should matter. Third lesson is to assign yourself. Daddy used to run us wild. He couldn't stand to see us idle. And every day we'd come home, he said, "Did the teacher give you any homework?" And if we said no, he said, "Well, assign yourself some." Well, I hope you won't do just as little as you can to get by. Don't be a political bystander and grumbler. If you see a need, don't ask, why doesn't somebody do something? Ask, why don't I do something? Because hard work and initiative and persistence are still the magic carpets of success. Fourth, I hope you'll never work just for money. Money alone won't save your soul or build a decent family or help us sleep at night. We're the richest nation on earth with one of the highest incarceration rate in the world, and among the highest drug addiction and child poverty rates in the world. Children are the poorest group of Americans. No other wealthy, in fact, less wealthy industrialized nation let its children, 13 million of ours, be poor. Don't ever confuse wealth or fame with character. And don't tolerate or condone moral corruption, whether it's found in high or low places, whatever its color or class. It's not okay to push or use drugs, even if everybody you think you know is doing it. It is not okay to lie or to cheat. Be honest. And demand that those who represent you be honest. And don't confuse morality with legality. Dr. King once noted that everything Hitler did in Nazi Germany was legal, but it wasn't right. Don't give anybody else the proxy for your conscience. And don't be afraid of speaking truth to power and of exercising your right as a citizen. If you don't want to be criticized, don't say anything, don't do anything, and don't be anything. Don't be afraid of failing. It's the way you learn to do things. It's the scientific method of trial and error and trial and error. Doesn't matter how many times you fall down. What matters is how many times you get up. And don't wait for everybody to come along and get something done. It's always a few people who get things done and keep things going. This country right now desperately needs more wise and courageous shepherds and fewer sheep who don't borrow from integrity to fund political and economic expediencies. Take your career seriously, but take parenting and family life equally seriously. And insist that those you work for and who represent you do so too. And I hope that as daughters and sons, you will share in the responsibilities in your lives and your families, and stress family rituals and be good moral examples for children. If you cut corners, they will too. If you lie, they will too. If you spend all of your money in yourself and tithe no portion of it to your college, churches, synagogues, mosques, and civic causes, they won't either. And if you tell, snicker at racial and gender jokes or anything intended to demean another person, another generation will pass on the poison my generation still has not had the courage to snuff out. Please don't laugh at, tell, or tolerate racial, ethnic, religious, or gender slurs or any practices that tend to demean another human being. Walk away from them, stare them down, make them unacceptable in your presence. Last two, I'm done. Listen for the sound of the genuine within you. Howard Thurman spoke at Spelman College's chapel and talked about how there are so many noises in our lives, but something in every one of us waits and listens for the sound of the genuine in ourselves. And he said it's the only true guide you'll ever have. And if you can't hear it, you will all of your life spend your days on the strings that somebody else pulls. Learn to be quiet enough to hear the sound of the genuine within yourself so that you can hear it in other people. And never think that life is not worth living or that you cannot make a difference. Never give up. I don't care how hard it gets, and it's going to get very hard after you leave Emory, and it's going to get hard when you may not even expect it. But there's an old proverb that says, when you get to your wits' end, that's where God lives. Harriet Beecher Stowe said that when you get into a tight place and everything goes against you till it seems as though you couldn't hang on for another minute, never give up then, for that is just the place and the time that the tide will turn. So you hang on with life after you leave Emory, through thick and thin, and always realize you can make a difference. My role model, one of them, was a brilliant but illiterate slave woman who never gave up speaking out against slavery and second-class treatment of women during slavery, even though it was an impossible chore. And I remember her on days when I'm discouraged. She said one day when she was speaking out against slavery and got heckled by an old white man who stood up in the audience and said to her, "Old slave woman, I don't care no more about your anti-slavery talk than for an old flea bite." And she snapped back at him and said, "That's all right. The Lord willing, I'm going to keep you scratching." When we face such huge problems of war and gaps between rich and poor and greed and wastefulness in our national resources, we can all remember we don't have to make big changes, we do, but we all can be specific, we can be strategic fleas. Enough fleas biting strategically can make very big dogs uncomfortable. And I hope that all of you who are concerned about the suffering of children, the absence of health care and decent education, will become fleas for justice for children with your votes, with your emails, with your letters. Those things matter. Help us build a movement that makes America worthy of its children and that protects its children and protects its poor and protects its values. Giving Shel Silverstein the children's book Wright the last word, he said, "Listen to the mustn'ts, child, listen to the don'ts. Listen to the shouldn'ts, the impossibles, the won'ts. Listen to the never haves, then listen close to me. Anything can happen, child. Anything can be if you dream it, if you believe in it, if you have faith in it, if you struggle for it, if you never give up. And we will never give up until America takes care of every one of its sacred children." Godspeed to you.
Mrs. Edelman, Dr. Edelman, thank you for your kind and wise and challenging words. Well, this brings us to the moment of our ceremony that brought most of us here in the first place, the Conferral of Degrees in course. The deans will present their candidates for degrees in the order in which the schools of the university were founded, with two exceptions. The graduate school will have pride of place at the end to connote the highest degree awarded in course, the Doctor of Philosophy degree. And the degrees awarded to this year's graduates of Oxford College have already been awarded 2 days ago. So would previous graduates of Oxford College that are among us, would you all stand so that we might recognize our school in Oxford, Georgia? Please stand, yes. Thank you. You may be seated. Now, Dean Paul, will you present your candidates for degrees in course?
Will the faculty of Emory College please rise, and will the student marshals come forward? Mr. President,
Mr. Dean.
I have the honor to present the candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science. Will the candidates please rise?
Of course.
These candidates have successfully completed their course of study and are recommended for the appropriate degrees by the faculty of Emory College.
You are heirs to a tradition of academic apprenticeship. reaching back more than 800 years, and you have proven yourselves worthy of that tradition. So I hereby confer your baccalaureate degrees with all appropriate honors, rights, privileges, and responsibilities. Great congratulations to you. And you may be seated. Thanks, Marshall. Dean Lawley, will you present your candidates for degrees in course? That's great.
Will the faculty of the School of Medicine please rise, and will the student marshals please come forward? Mr. President,
Mr. Dean.
I have the honor to present the candidates for degrees of Associate in Medical Science, Bachelor in Medical Science, Master of Medical Science, Doctor of Physical Therapy, and Doctor of Medicine. Will the candidates please rise?
And they're up.
These candidates have successfully completed their course of study and are recommended for the appropriate degrees by the faculty of the School of Medicine.
You have been trained in the healing arts. You have demonstrated proficiency in sciences and technologies that serve humanity. Shortly, you will assume responsibility for all who commit their health and lives to your knowledge. I hereby confer your medical degrees with all the appropriate honors, rights, privileges, and responsibilities. Great congratulations to you. And you may be seated. Dean Salmon, will you present your candidates for degrees in course?
Will the faculty of the Nell Hodgson Woodruff School of Nursing please rise, and will the student marshals come forward? Mr. President,
Madam Dean.
I have the honor to present the candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Science in Nursing and Master of Science in Nursing. Will the candidates please rise? These candidates, these wonderful candidates, have successfully completed their course of study and are recommended for the appropriate degrees by the faculty of the School of Nursing.
Your profession offers the highest commitment of care of the whole person in the midst of changing demands of healthcare. I hereby confer your nursing degrees with all appropriate honors, rights, privileges, and responsibilities. Great congratulations. And you may be seated. Dean Ritchie, will you present your candidates for degrees in course?
Will the faculty of the Candler School of Theology please rise? And will the student marshals please come forward? Mr. President,
Mr. Dean.
I have the honor to present the candidates for the degrees of Master of Theological Studies, Master of Divinity, Master of Theology, and Doctor of Theology. Will the candidates pray rise? These candidates have indeed miraculously completed their course of study and are recommended for their respective degrees by the faculty of the Candler School of Theology.
You have learned to probe spiritual mysteries, to minister to the often intractable spiritual ills that afflict individuals in society, and to exercise pastoral leadership and healing discernment. I hereby confer your theology degrees with all appropriate honors, rights, privileges, and responsibilities. Great congratulations to you. And you may be seated. Dean Alexander, will you present your candidates for degrees in course?
Will the faculty of the School of Law please rise, and will the student marshals come forward? Mr. President,
Mr. Dean.
I have the honor to present the candidates for the degrees of Doctor of Law and Master of Laws. Will the candidates please rise? These candidates have successfully completed their course of study and are recommended for their respective degrees by the faculty of the School of Law.
As civilization rests on a foundation of justice, you bear the obligation to establish justice ever more firmly among us. So I hereby confer your law degrees with all appropriate honors, rights, privileges, and responsibilities. Great congratulations to you. And you may be seated. Dean Benvenisti, will you present your candidates for degrees and course? That's great.
All right, will the faculty of the Roberto C. Goizueta Business School please rise? And will the student marshals please come forward? You're already here, good. Mr. President.
Mr. Dean.
I have the great honor to present the candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Business Administration and for the degree of Master's of Business Administration. Will the candidates please rise? All right. These candidates have successfully completed their course of study and are recommended for their respective degrees by the faculty of the Goizueta Business School.
Accomplished in the language of trade, finance, and management, you are charged to go forth to accomplish the world's business with integrity as well as with skill. You bear responsibility for fostering greater understanding among all peoples as the commerce of nations brings us in touch with what is different and new. I hereby confer your business degrees with all appropriate honors, rights, privileges, and responsibilities. Great congratulations. And you may be seated. And Dean Curran, will you present your candidates for degrees and course?
Will the faculty of the Rollins School of Public Health please rise, and will the student marshals please come forward? Mr. President.
Mr. Dean.
I have the honor to present the candidates for the degrees of Master of Public Health and Master of Science in Public Health. Will the candidates please rise? These candidates have completed their course of study successfully and are recommended for their respective degrees by the faculty of the Rollins School of Public Health.
As you address the epidemic ills, endemic diseases of our communities, you join men and women who have devoted their lives to making a healthier society. I hereby confer upon you your respective degrees with all appropriate honors, rights, privileges, and responsibilities. Great congratulations to you. And you may be seated. Dean Tedesco, will you present your candidates for degrees in course? Welcome.
Will the faculty of the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences please rise? And will the student marshals please come forward? Mr. President.
Madam Dean.
I have the honor to present the candidates for the degrees of Diploma for Advanced Study in Teaching, Master of Arts in Teaching, Master of Science, Master of Music, and Master of Sacred Music. Will the candidates please rise? These candidates have successfully completed their course of study and are recommended for their respective degrees by the faculty of the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences.
You have earned the implicit vocation of teacher, whatever your career may be. I hereby confer upon each of you the appropriate degree with all appropriate rights, honors, privileges, and responsibilities. Great congratulations. And you may be seated.
Mr. President,
Madam Dean.
I have the additional honor to present the candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. Will the candidates please rise? These candidates have successfully completed their course of study and dissertations and are recommended for their degrees by the faculty of the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences.
You have attained the highest degree awarded in course. I take great pride and pleasure in welcoming you to the ancient and honorable company of scholars. And so I hereby confer upon each of you your doctoral degrees with all appropriate honors, rights, privileges, and responsibilities. Great congratulations. And you may be seated. Men and women of the class of 2006 of Emory University, for your hard work and manifold contributions to our community during your time here, we salute you and offer all of you one more round of applause of congratulations. And now, I am pleased to introduce Andrea Casson, class of 88 and of 93 of the Gosueta Business School, and president of the Association of Emory Alumni. Andrea?
Distinguished graduates, as president of the Association of Emory Alumni, I have the privilege of welcoming you formally to the ranks of alumni of this great university. While your cherished status as students may have ended all too quickly, you each will bear the title of alumnus or alumna for the rest of your lives. Today, you join a dynamic group of men and women nearly 100,000 strong. Would everyone in the audience who is an alumnus or alumna of Emory University, except for today's graduates, please stand and be recognized. That's a terrific showing, thank you. And would the class of 2006 please stand to be recognized as Emory's newest alumni. Class of 2006, we hope that you, as have your fellow alumni, will maintain ties to Emory, will help build its future, and will always feel at home here. As your colleagues, we know that the university has imparted values as well as knowledge, and we look forward to witnessing the leadership that you provide in the communities of your choice. As you make your mark in the world, stay in touch, visit often, and let us hear from you. We wish you well and congratulations.
And you all may be seated. Thank you, Andrea. Graduates, as you prepare to depart from this place, at least for the time being, please cherish the memory of those who have worked so hard to help you on your way. In your program, pages 3 and 4, you will find listed the honor roll of retiring members of the faculty and those retiring members of the general staff whose service to the life of this community is extended over 25 or more years. Together, they have served you and other students of Emory for a combined total of over 1,000 years. In fact, will these retiring faculty and staff members please stand so that we can all warmly thank you? Thanks for being here. It's appropriate also, it seems to me, that we should have all faculty and staff stand so that the graduates may salute you for the knowledge that you have given them and for the tremendous work of support that you have done. All faculty and staff, please rise. That is a warm applause. Please remain standing. Please remain standing, because now we would like all parents, family members, spouses, friends, and loved ones gathered here today to stand so that the graduates may salute you for your love, your support, your guidance during their time. Everybody up. I believe there could not be a stronger core of support. You all now may be seated. Thank you. Finally, as president of Emory University, I have the privilege of speaking the last official word to you. As you embark on the next chapter of your lives, I hope that you will recall the words that 3 years ago you helped to craft as the vision statement for this university. Recall that your lives should be inquiry-driven, that your hearts and minds should be ethically engaged, and that the best community is one that makes room for the miraculous diversity of humankind. Remember to be at work for positive transformation, and do so through your own courageous leadership, no matter what field of endeavor you work in. All of us here are so privileged to have been together during these times, but with such great privilege comes also great responsibility. To whom much is given, much also will be required. I have no doubt that with your Emory education, you will leave here and you will do well. But even as you do well, I challenge you also to do good. On behalf of Emory University, I congratulate you and wish for you the very best. And for myself, I will miss you, and I wish you Godspeed. Congratulations to all. And now let us all rise to receive the benedictions.
God, our Father, Mother, and Creator, you who speak to us in whispers amongst the thunderstorms and dropped bombs, you call us now from the fields in which we have been digging, from the caves in which we have been sleeping. You say, come out from there, walk into the thunderstorm, walk among the rubble, continue to hear my voice. Do not bury what you have dug back in the ground. Do not go back and hide in your cave. Jesus, our brother and supreme lover, gently have us put down our shovels, take our hands, lead us from the fields, the caves, and into the rain, into the war zones, with the hope that one day the clouds will be lifted.
Congratulations to all of you. Today I will share a small passage from the Holy Quran, the Muslim holy text. If God so willed, he could have made all of you one single nation, but he willed otherwise, in order to test you in what he has given you. Therefore, try to excel one another in doing good works. Ultimately, you shall return to God. Then He will show you the truth of those matters in which you dispute.
I will be offering a Hindu Deeksha mantra or valedictory prayer. Om Satyam Vada Dharmam Chara Swadhyayanma Pramadaha Satyanna Pramaditavyam Dharmamna Pramaditavyam Kushalanna Pramaditavyam Bhutyena Pramaditavyam Swadhyam Pravachanabhyam Na Pramaditavyam Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Speak the truth, do your duties. Do not neglect the study of the scriptures. Do not swerve from the truth and dharma. Do not neglect the welfare of society. Do not fail to achieve prosperity, and do not forget to refresh your memory of what you have learned. Om, peace, peace, peace.
Tfilat HaDerech, the Traveler's Prayer. Yehi ratzon milfanecha, Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu. May it be your will, Hashem, our God and God of our forefathers and mothers, that you lead us toward peace, and place our footsteps toward peace. Guide us toward peace, and make us reach our desired destination for life, gladness, and peace. May you rescue us from the hand of every foe and from all manner of punishments that assemble to come to earth. May you send blessing in our every handiwork and grant us grace, kindness, and mercy in your eyes and in the eyes of all who see us. May you hear the sound of our supplication, because you are God who hears prayer and supplication. Blessed are you, Hashem, who hears prayer. Baruch atah Adonai, shomea tefillah.
Amen. And now as you remain standing, but join, if you would, in the singing of Emory's alma mater. The lyrics are on the first page of your program. This is something that has not been done since 1977. Jeremy?
In the heart of dear old Emory, where the sun doth shine, that is where our hearts are turning round old Emory's shrine. We will ever sing thy praises, sons and daughters true. Hail we now our alma mater, hail the gold and blue. Though the years around us gather, crowned with love and cheer, still the memory of old Emory grows to us more dear. We will ever sing thy praises, sons and daughters true. Hail we now our alma mater, hail the gold and blue.
Jeremy Worth, thank you. And now the new graduates of Emory College, would you please be seated? And would all families and guests please be seated as the faculty and the non-college graduates march to their respective diploma ceremonies. And those ceremonies will begin at the times and in the locations indicated on page 6 of the program. And so now, clear the way and let the recessional begin.